there are going to be more restricted under this changing the urban containment boundary to the boundaries of the city and putting them in a reserve?
It's my belief that there's no less, that they don't have any greater ability to develop without the urban containment boundary as they do with it.
Okay. Then this is going to be, the planning for this area is going to be a city-driven agenda?
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I didn't explain it very well, I guess. That's entirely up to council. It would have an urban reserve designation on it. The timing of when that neighborhood plan or comprehensive planning exercise occurs is up to council. If council wishes to expend money and direct staff to do it, we can do it any time. Otherwise, we would wait for the neighborhood to come forward or the property owners to come forward and do it themselves.
Okay, under normal conditions, how far down on the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan would we anticipate?
We're still waiting. Actually, that's one of the items, Jingle Pot neighborhood. These items are before council now, and that decision can be made anytime. We're still waiting to actually work through what the work plan will look like next year, as well as 5 years out.
Okay, well, as I say, I really have difficulties with this one here because I think, and especially the experience that I've sat through with the Lindley Valley and the restrictions put on there, I think they're taken from the frying pan to the fire, and it's going to be more restrictive, and that has me with grave difficulty.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question to staff. The amended urban reserve designation as proposed, if approved, will not categorically change the conditions precedent, if you will, on the Lindley Valley as we know it today. Is that accurate?
No, in actual fact, these are only drafts at this point that we cobbled together today to put in front of council so you have an idea. We'll work out some more of the details before we launch the draft plan, but it was largely taken from what exists now in the OCP for the Lindley Valley. If the property owners had have got together, done a comprehensive plan, proved how they were going to do servicing at their cost, we would be recommending to council that you amend the UCB and allow the development to happen.
But I just want to, if I could just add further to that, because I'm a little worried that those of us in the know that have been involved in the discussion are having a flashback when we talk about the previous comprehensive plan in Lindley Valley. That was before the province committed, as they have, that DL56 will be protected. That's before council bought the Alpine Villages site for the park. Most of the upper lands, known colloquially and accurately as the wastelands, are wastelands. There's not a lot to protect. When we talk about restriction, what we want in the Lindley Valley is to set appropriate community standards. And I don't actually believe that the developer of those lands in 2008 wants to do anything but that, because it's marketable to do a good job and meet community standards.
Follow-up, Councillor Bestwick. Any other debate on item 2, which is to direct staff to amend the draft official community plan to include policies for an urban reserve designation? Any further debate? All in favor? Opposed? Recognize all members of council in the affirmative. Councillor Sherry opposed. The motion is carried. Any further discussion with regard to item 3 or 4? Councillor Holdham.
Well, I just point out that item 3 is the direction to release the draft official community plan for public consultation. I've received some communications wondering where it is, so here it comes.
Any further discussion? This is on 3 and 4. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Can I also suggest that we recommend...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, what's going on?
Nothing.
Okay. Can I also recommend that we suggest that we offer the presentation by Mr. Barry to the full Regional District Board at a convenient time, a time convenient to them?
So
moved Councillor Holdham, seconded Councillor Brennan. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. You had something?
Yes, I'd like to further move, Your Worship, that we direct staff to postpone consideration of specific applications until specific applications to amend the OCP until these potential general revisions to the OCP are decided. Okay, and move that we direct staff to postpone consideration of specific applications to amend the OCP until these potential general revisions to the OCP are decided.
Move Councillor Holdham, seconded Councillor Brennan. Discussion. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, Your Worship. Can I ask of staff which specific amendments are we talking about with that?
The largest is the Cable Bay application. So if I understand the recommendation, the sequence would include that you would adopt the new OCP based after the public consultation, and then you would revisit the Cable Bay application to determine whether you would lift the urban reserve designation and put a development designation on it.
That's partly what I'm talking about, although it wouldn't have an urban reserve designation on it. It has a rural resource designation on it now, I think. As I understand the application is to move the UCB and to change the designation of that land. I think that now that we're considering the larger issue and we're contemplating a wholesale change around the entire boundary of the city, that the specific applications should be informed by our decision about that. So if we decide that the UCB is to be extended outwards around the whole city, then that solves the issue of Cable Bay on that particular question. There's still a question of the zoning, the land use designation, and all of that. But if we're trying to resolve this question for the whole community, and I think this is the right sequence, then we should wait until we've decided that before we consider specific applications any further.
Discussion on that? Any other discussion on that? Councillor Manas?
Your Worship, that's not. First of all, we're not sure how long this process will take because it's going to go to public consultation and so forth. And we, as an applicant, had made an application to the city, and those are kind of developments that we're looking forward in the future. So I'm not sure if we want to take that application out and to deal with this, it could take 6 months to a year with the public consultation. But those are kind of developments we want to proceed with this urban reserve they're putting on the balance of lands that we're taking into the urban containment boundary. So I can't really see myself supporting that because we already directed the staff to bring forward, and also the applicant itself is doing a public information, public consultation as we speak.
Your Worship, I understand and I'm quite sympathetic to Councillor Holdham's approach here, and I think that had I thought, I have to take responsibility for this, had I thought of this earlier in the process, I might be recommending that approach. What's a determinant for me right now, of course it's up to Council, is to, one of the things we're trying to do is advance more community involvement, more community understanding, more public participation, and one of the ways to do that is to eliminate confusion as much as possible. Personally, I believe that at this point in the process, it's appropriate to proceed with the Cable Bay process. People are engaged. They are looking for an answer. I think they'll be confused if they're not included in that discussion at this present time. So that's the value that I think would be the dominant value. And as an example, I show you tonight's meeting on the UCB, and nobody's here. That certainly wasn't the case when the Cable Bay discussion was being brought forward. So I think there is the potential for that. The other issue, and this is where I certainly agree with the intent of the motion, is just talking about what the impacts would be. We have said before to Council, and I still maintain that if in fact the Cable Bay discussion does not proceed because Council decides that it does not have merit, we will still be recommending moving the boundary to the UCB to the city boundary, and we'll probably be recommending moving the city boundary in. So you see what I'm saying?
So in effect, we believe or the staff believes that we can do these in parallel, and that Council is capable of multitasking? and considering the implications one to the other?
I think the presentation tonight demonstrates, and I've been struggling on how to explain it not only to council but to the community, that there's so much happening so fast and the world is changing so rapidly. It's hard for even council, who's invested in this stuff, to understand the context. Having started with a Cable Bay discussion, I think now it's important to have people who are engaged carry through. So yes, I would see doing it in parallel, but I'm sensitive to the fact that I think Council Holdham's right. Had we started this differently, and this has been iterative, we might have started this way.
Well, the different learning curves, and we take the information as is best available to us at the time. But I would think that if this motion, either way this motion goes, both topics will be influential on the other. We have a number of hands. Councillor Unger, Brennan, then Holdham.
I have a great difficulty with this motion in that there's already, as has been pointed out, processes in motion that a lot of investment has been made on certain conditions, and changing the rules in the middle of the game, I think, is not the way to go. We have to proceed with the ones that are in the process already. Whether they are approved or turned down is immaterial, but once a certain point has been reached, I think on those we are past the point of no return, but I would support the rest of it.
I do support the motion. I think that the two issues here, the urban containment boundary moving to the city limits and the Cable Bay development, I don't think that the public will in fact separate them. I think that they will argue as though they are the same thing, and we won't get independent assessment from the public, from our citizens on this. So I think we need to pull them apart, examine them separately, and I don't agree that this is necessarily the type of development we want. We haven't had that discussion. Do you know that that the proponent for Cable Bay has not appeared before council to tell us what the proposal is? So I don't think that I know that this is the kind of development that we're looking at. So I think that we need to pull the two apart and proceed with the boundary before we continue with the Cable Bay.
Your Worship, I cannot support this motion either. I mean, they're having, on the 16th of, that's Thursday, I believe, isn't it? They're having information meet out in Cedar, and they're having another one out there. They're bringing people aware of what's going on. And the fairest thing is to get a lot of this out of our backstabbing and everything else that we're going, is get it to a public here as soon as we can, and the people support it or don't support it, then we get on with something else. This is going to go on for another 4 or 5 years, and we're going to be pressured every day.
Any other debate on the motion on the floor? Could you, Councillor Holdham, again, just repeat what the motion is again, please?
The motion, Your Worship, is to direct staff to postpone consideration of specific applications to amend the OCP until these potential general revisions, the moving of the UCB, are decided. I would just say that I'm just looking at this logically. If we proceeded with them in tandem and we approved Cable Bay and turned down the extension of the UCB, we'd be in a very strange position. If we approve the extension of the UCB and turn down Cable Bay, that actually happens to work. It's just that it's always better to go with the general rule and then apply it to a specific case, it seems to me. But so what I'm really trying to achieve, though, is just what Councillor Brennan has said. It's separation of the two issues, and that's the main reason for asking for them to be sequenced, because we will be facing a group of people who are opposed to Cable Bay and who will also oppose the urban containment boundary change. And I think that would be unfortunate. I would like to hear from people that are in favor of one or the other or both. But what we're going to be facing and what we'll be opposing our UCB change, which has all kinds of justification, which we've just heard tonight, because we're also trying to deal with the Cable Bay application at the same time. Frankly, I don't think that's fair to the Cable Bay application as well as the general proposal we've received tonight.
Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just personally, I don't see the connection to the two things being the same thing, the urban containment boundary and the Cable Bay project being one and the same. But how many applications are we making reference to here? Just simply one that we have on the books.
So far, but we've got fooled on that before, and I was trying to include any new applications that come in.
Your Worship, through Councillor Bestwick, we do have just the one large one, and Council's actually directed not to have any further applications previously until we actually complete the OCP.
The only other item of information, Your Worship, and hopefully it's not making items more problematic, Council to some extent, there is no one right way here, and there's valid arguments on both points. But you will be damned if you do, damned if you don't. As you know, you're under some indictment for having made decisions at the region which people think predispose your decision on other items. So to some extent, and to reinforce what I said previously, from a staff point of view, proceeding in concert at least deals with that. Because if you deal with either one in advance, you'll be damned for that.
Just a thought. Certainly, I do agree with Councillor Holden relative to the procedure and the process. It would be nice if we could go backward, but we can't. And I do honestly feel that we would be going backward. Do we have any concept of time? How long this process would take for staff to review this?
Your Worship, we're certainly hoping within the next 4 months to be bringing forward a final draft of the plan.
I would just if I could end the debate, I would just say that I can understand the arguments on both sides here, but my general principle is we err on the side of more information than less, and I do believe that the people have elected 9 representatives to use their best judgment in a multitude of issues and aspects all at once and be aware of the interconnections. And so I will not be supporting the motion on the floor, although I'm tempted in some respects to do so. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? I recognize Councillors Brennan and Holdham in the affirmative. The balance of council opposed. That motion is defeated. Do we have any other motions in this topic at this time? We'll jump back to page 1 and we'll deal with any delegations from the community related to the 2008 to 2012 financial plan, otherwise known as the city budget. If you'd like to come to the microphone and give your name, address, and your presentation with regard to the budget. Welcome.
Fred Taylor of 204 Emery Way. Mayor Corpin and council members. The opportunity to address the expenditures operations of our community once again appears to lack interest. Maybe there is a lack of leadership, as I fail to recall a well-versed dialogue between council members in open council in regards to all expenditures. The most repeated concern of only the tax rate. Listening to the city manager, the main thing was just we're getting a tax rate hike. I do not support any discussion of our financial plan at the Finance Policy Committee of the Whole meetings. I understand the Finance Policy Committee of the Whole was delegated certain powers, duties, and functions of the Council, which was Bylaw 7022, by authority of Section 154 of the Community Charter. Section 154 does not permit the making of a bylaw. Our financial plan is a bylaw. The special meeting of the Finance Policy Committee of the Whole, held January the 8th, 2008, entertained budget presentations of the Fire Department and the RCMP. The notice of the special meeting failed to disclose the main agenda purpose of the meeting, the agenda disclosing budget presentation of the Fire Department and RCMP. Why could we not put that in the notice so that people get made aware of what your main topics are going to be? In other words, just to say that we're going to discuss something to do with the budget, when it only takes less than a page of the same amount to say RCMP and police big items in our budget are going to be discussed. So I think the notice
As
could
you know,
be
Mr.
say a
Taylor,
little more.
as you know, Mr. Taylor, there is the possibility